President Trump's home was raided. You know that. The question is why? And what will be the political fallout for this for President Trump, for President Biden, for Nancy Pelosi? We're going to talk about as much of this as we can on tonight's program. I'm Randall Terry. This is Voice of Resistance. Welcome to the program, friend. You've heard the phrase banana republic. You've seen evidence of it in Central America, South America over the last decades. We never thought it would happen here. When Hillary Clinton was committing what arguably were felonies, all right, smashing her phone, bleaching her computer, destroying evidence. Years ago, I told people, she's not going to get prosecuted. She's just not. It's the American public won't stand for it. They will not stand for a former First Lady, a former U.S. Senator, a former Secretary of State, and presidential candidate. They just are not going to stand for her being prosecuted. They just won't. It's not who we are as a people. It's not who our history is. Do I think Hillary Clinton is a criminal? Yes, personally, I do. Do I think the evidence points to the fact that she's a criminal? Well, former FBI Director Comey said so. He said there were laws broken by her, but then he said no reasonable prosecutor would bring a case. He was probably right. We are not the nation that prosecutes former presidents and first ladies. Nixon was given a pardon by Ford. I have to be honest with you, I am in a state of shock to this day, grieving for what it means for our country. Now, Garland has admitted that he signed off on it. He's saying he didn't tell President Biden. Does anyone really believe that? I don't. But let's just come back around what this means for the country. We are seeing the Democrat machine, the House, parts of the Senate, the White House. We're seeing them. A grand jury has been impaneled to consider an indictment of President Trump. Over what? Over what was in the boxes? Does anybody really believe that President Trump was putting files in boxes the day he left the White House? Does anyone believe that after he got to Mar-a-Lago that he sat there and started going through the boxes? It's ludicrous. And the give and take between the National Archives is something that has been going on for decades. It's not new. It's not unusual. It certainly did not call for them to raid his home. But they did. And it is having, for the most part, an intensely unifying factor on Trump supporters. But it does not portend well for our country. It does not. And I am frightened. I'm frightened. Because people snap. People get pushed to the breaking point. People who are not stable. You saw what happened with the man in Ohio. In case you missed it, a man went to an FBI office in Ohio and tried to break in and shoot FBI agents. He fled the scene. Ultimately, he was shot and killed by law enforcement. Then, yesterday, a man drove up in the Capitol area and slammed into one of those ground levers that come out to keep people from going in. He slammed into one, set the car on fire, jumped out, started shooting into the air, and then shot himself. That's scary. That is frightening. So those two men are responsible for their own actions. But this White House, this Congress, they are pushing people. They are deliberately pushing people in the hopes that they will snap. They are hoping for another January 6th riot. Trust me, they are. Because it's not just Trump that they hate. They hate you and me. They hate those of us that voted for Trump. They hate those of us that defend Trump. They hate those of us that want Trump's agenda. I'm going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to take a look at why they hate President Trump so much, what it means, what they're doing, and what about those 85,000 new IRS agents that are coming to a town near you? I'll be right back. I grew up in upstate New York, in the greater Rochester, New York area. It's not quite as intense as New York City, but it's a different speed of life. I live in the South now. I live in the deep South. Very different culture, very different behaviors, mannerisms, speed of speech, what you would and wouldn't say publicly in a mixed group, all kinds of stuff. Just the dynamics are very, very different. Trump is from New York. He's aggressive, he's bombastic, he's clipped sometimes in his words, he can be abrasive. It doesn't bother me because culturally I grew up in New York State. It's just how New Yorkers behave every day. Now, in the Deep South, the polite Deep South, this behavior is boorish, it's unthinkable, it's disgusting, it's deplorable. For some people. The presidency is not about personality. It's not about whether you speak like this and you're from Arkansas or you speak faster than a New York minute. The presidency is about policy. When I think of the number of evangelical Christians and Catholic Christians, mainline denomination Christians who voted for Joe Biden, it makes me want to puke. Well, I didn't like his tweets. Shut up. It's not about tweets. It's about policy. And that's why they're trying to destroy him. That's why they're trying to keep him out of the White House. All of this, the 2 impeachments, the January 6th hearings, the grand jury that's been impaneled, the Russia hoax for 3 years, a lie from beginning to end. It was always about keeping him from winning a second term and getting his agenda through. The policy, the presidency is about policy. Now you think with me what President Trump's policies meant. Just some of the ones that, really rang the bell of the baby killers. Oh, there's one. There's one. Overturn Roe. Appoint judges to the Supreme Court that will overturn Roe. Cha-ching. Mission accomplished. Build a wall on our southern border to protect our integrity, the integrity of our border, to keep millions of illegal immigrants from pouring in. Drug cartels, human trafficking cartels, put up a wall. He was on his way to doing it. Now big portions of that wall, the metal is sitting there rusting. And Biden sent the signals that he needed to send. Millions of people coming in. We find people dead. We had the tractor trailer full of people. It's about policy. How about you like the price of your oil right now? You like the price of your gas at your pump? That was about policy. Open the Keystone Pipeline. Open ANWR. The first president, since my early days of broadcasting, I was saying just drill an ANWR. Probably the largest oil reserves on the planet. Right there. We own it. We're big people. We're grown-ups. We can keep the polar bear safe. He started. He was getting the Keystone Pipeline and he was issuing permits in areas that it makes sense to drill. He was fracking. He actually had driven the price of fuel so low that he was saying, all right, that's low enough, guys. It's got to be about $2 a gallon to get it out of the ground and refined and in the pump and getting into your gas, your gas tank. It's got to be about $2 a gallon. Can't get below that. Fracking. So now look, We could have been exporting power or energy to Europe. Russia's got them over a barrel. They're in trouble. They wanted their oil or their gas, rather, from communists or from a dictator in Russia. And now our president and his staff are begging for oil from terrorist nations. Nations that fund terrorism. Thugs. We're going to our enemies for oil because this President Biden does not want us to be energy independent. Remember those good old days when price of gas was dipping below $2 a gallon under President Trump? Jobs were being created. Factories were opening. Look, do you like the price of your groceries? All of you who voted for Biden, or all of you who didn't vote, we have you in part to thank or to blame, whichever way you want to put it, for what's happening right now. Because the presidency is not about tweets. It's not about orange hair. It's not about how loud and obnoxious somebody is. It's about policy. Maybe you think Joe Biden would be a great neighbor. Maybe you think he's a cute old man. Maybe you like watching him eat ice cream. He is about policy. I don't want to see him mocked because he falls off of his bike. I don't care if he falls off his bike. I care about him signing a bill that is going to put 85,000 IRS agents on the street. Who do you think they're going to come and see? I'll be right back. I want to talk about those agents. Don't go away. This, by the way, again, I want to say it. All of this that is happening to President Trump is about keeping him from office another time. Because if the election were held today, President Trump is 9 points up on Joe Biden nationally. In a national poll, if the election were today, Biden loses by 9 points. In an electoral college sense, that is a wipeout of epic proportions. Don't go away. I'll be right back. Welcome back, friend. You must know by now that the bill that President Biden just signed, the cut down version of the Build Back Better bill, which is going to add to your inflation some more, that bill has in it funding for 85,000 new IRS agents. It's going to roughly double the size of the IRS. Are you hearing this? Who do you think they're going to come for? If you get an audit, I got audited 25, 30 years ago, more than 30 years ago. And when it was all over, the IRS and our accountants figured out that I had overpaid about $10,000, and they wrote a check refunding what we had overpaid. So who do you think the IRS agents are going to bother? They're going to bother small businesses. They're going to bother families. Because why? Well, because if we get a note from the IRS, we're going to say, oh, good grief. What are they saying we owe? Just pay it. We don't need the hassle. If they come and sit at the businessman's desk, we want to see all your records. It begins this overwhelming, horrific search for documents, trying to prove where you were, all these things. It's a nightmare to eat out and to harass our people. I'm quoting from the Declaration, to eat out the welfare, the money, something where like they're like locusts. The IRS questionnaire, where people would apply for a job, it's been altered since then. But two of the things that it said was, are you proficient in the use of firearms? And ready, here's the second one. This one's scary. Are you willing to use deadly force? What? Are you willing to use deadly force? We're talking about an IRS agent here. Talking about someone checking out taxes. Why are we talking about them being able to use a gun and use deadly force? This is to harass and intimidate. And that's one of the secondary messages of what's happened to President Trump. If they can do this to Trump, they can do anything to you and me. Anything. Anything. He's got his own Secret Service detail. He's got more lawyers than lawyers have lawyers. And they just are steamrolling him. What hope do people like you and I have? And now TikTok just announced that they are going to once again have election integrity. Did I say TikTok? I meant Twitter. Twitter is now going to jump in and determine, no, you can't say that about elections. No, you can't say that about elections. No, you can't cast doubt on whether or not there's been election fraud. Big tech, Biden's thugs at Google, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Biden's thugs at the New York Times, Washington Post. I mean, have you seen the pictures of the guy who signed the warrant? He's not even a judge, he's a magistrate. Have you seen the pictures of the guy who signed the warrant to raid President Trump's home? I mean, just obscene stuff. He was an attorney for people involved in the pedophile ring of Jeffrey Epstein. He was, on TikTok, on Facebook, railing against President Trump. He should have recused himself. He's a political hack. But the big thing that I'm switching subjects now away from the IRS, forgive me, but free flow of thought here. The big thing that we need to see is we know who he is. We know who the magistrate is. People say, we want to see the warrant. Forget the warrant. You want to see the sworn statements that gave rise to the warrant. They have lied about President Trump. Hillary Clinton paid for a false dossier that was a complete lie. That dossier is what led to the FISA courts allowing President Trump and his associates to be spied on, okay? They broke the law. They lied to judges, knowing that they were lying to judges, to get wiretaps to spy on President Trump and his family and his staff, okay? They broke the law. They lied on affidavits, how they got their warrants. I want to see the affidavits of this. Another said, if we give up who sent in this affidavit and we show you what it was really all about, it will endanger other high-profile informants. Oh, so you are saying you got other spies there working on us? You got other spies on the inside of some things going on right now. And you're saying that maybe they'd be afraid to lie for you or stretch the truth for you to get a warrant for you? We're in trouble, friends. I've got to take a break. I will be right back. Friend, we are being handed over. This is part of the judgment of God. Are you seeing what's happening in the West right now, the Midwest? Are you seeing the level of drought that's happening? There's going to be a food crisis in 2023, at least in the cost of just wheat and corn products. We have political tyranny happening. We have people parading around saying that a boy can become a girl and a girl can become a boy. Men should be able to join girls' sports. Why am I focusing on all this? Feels hodgepodge, doesn't it? Child killing, homosexual marriage. These are sins that cry to God for vengeance, to judgment. And then God says, you know what? I'm going to chasten you. I'm going to hand you over. So if you look in the scriptures of what judgment looks like, sometimes it's a Nebuchadnezzar. Sometimes it's a punishing political system like Nebuchadnezzar was to the Jews. So the Jews had sinned. They'd sinned greatly. And God said, go throughout the city, and I believe it's Ezekiel chapter 9. He said, go throughout the city and put a mark on the head of everyone who sighs and who cries for the abominations that are done here. And then God said to 6 other angels, now go, kill everyone who does not have the mark on their forehead. Go kill them all. And the death ended up coming from famine, from plague, and from the sword, from a political tyrant, a villain named Nebuchadnezzar. That's how God sent judgment. We are being oppressed by political tyrants. But as much as I want to fight against their tyranny and use my constitutional rights and duties to decry their tyranny, we have let innocent blood be shed. And the Bible says, do not pollute the land in which you live by bloodshed, for blood pollutes the land. We are in danger until we end the slaughter of children. We're being handed over. God save us. God bless you. I'll talk to you again soon.